thank you. Now, as I began the program, I mentioned that the Hall of Fame is an attribute of, sometimes people refer to it as a longevity award. But as you can see from Coach Klingensmith, I mentioned how not only coaching is and getting in this honor of a Hall of Fame have to do with longevity, but it's how you touch not only your players' lives, but also the impact you have on the community. As you can see, as he went through and recognized the people and their support, this is why we're in this profession. This is why we have this Hall of Fame for fine men like Coach Gary Klingensmith, how he has touched the community of Juniata. So thank you. Our next inductee, Mr. Alex Kopacz. Alex graduated from Hanover High School in 1967, where he was a conference record-setting quarterback. He moved on to Bloomsburg State, where he earned his BA and MA degrees. At Bloomsburg, he quarterbacked the Huskies before a major knee injury ended his career. Alex started his coaching career as a Hawkeye assistant for 7 years before taking over as head coach in 1982. Over the next 15 years, he built the Hanover area football program into one of the most successful programs in the state. Coach Kopacz remains the winningest coach in school history with an overall record of 101, 70, and 2. His Hawkeye teams earned 5 Wyoming Valley Conference championships, 4 Eastern Conference championships, 1 district championship, 1 district runner-up. In 1990, Hanover area won the prestigious Class AA state championship. They returned to the state championship game again the next season before losing to an Aliquippa team led by former NFL great Ty Law. Hanover area were mythical Class B state champions in 1983 as they were voted the top Class B team by the Harrisburg Patriot News. Alex's teams had a record 30-game winning streak from 1989 to 1991 and a 23-game winning streak from 1982 to 1984, along with the 2 undefeated seasons in 1983 and 1990. He is a 5-time Wyoming Valley Conference Coach of the Year, the PA State Football Coaches Association AA Coach of the Year in 1990, the Associated Press PA Small School Coach of the Year in 1991. He owns a 3-0 record in Unico All-Star Games and was a Big 33 assistant coach in the 1992 PA victory over Maryland. Coach Kopacz is enshrined in the Luzerne County chapter of the PA Sports Hall of Fame. For 13 years, he ran the highly successful Skills and Drills football seminar for high school and mini football coaches. For 8 years after his retirement, Alex was an analyst for local high school football on WIC Radio. After 33 years as an educator in the Hanover Area School District, Alex and his wife, Christine, retired to Venice, Florida. Alex and Christine have 2 sons, Alex Jr. and his wife, Melanie, in Naperville, Illinois, and his son, Brian, and his wife, Jennifer, in Sunnyvale, California, along with 4 grandchildren. Alex would like to thank his loving family, the Hanover Area School District, the Hanover community, and all of his former players, assistant coaches for their support and dedication over the years. Finally, Alex would like to thank the PSFCA for their prestigious honor. At this time, presenting Mr. Alex Kopacz is Alex Kopacz Jr.
Good afternoon. Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be standing here this afternoon on such a special day. A special day for the Hanover community, the Hawkeye football program, the many assistant coaches, the hundreds of former players, and a most special day for my entire family. But most importantly, I'm thrilled to be here on this day to introduce Alex Kopacz, my dad, my coach, my mentor, and my friend. As he prepares to receive this honor, and this induction into your PA Coaches Hall of Fame, I'd like to reflect just a bit on one of the many qualities that no doubt made my dad so special, not only as a successful football coach, but more importantly as a leader of young men. Let me take you back 30 years ago to 1982. My dad had just taken over the Hanover program after 7 years as an assistant coach. As he looked to build the framework for a successful program, and as he looked to foster an environment for his young men to learn and understand the many core values that would help propel them into life after high school football, he instituted a new process, a new procedure, if you will, into his daily practice and game day routine, something I believe is still instituted today. Each day, every time we as players went through stretches, before practice, before we left the tunnel on game days, and many other times in between, we went through this quirky little process of clapping our hands, slapping our pads, and barking out the phrase, "Pride, we got it. Pride, we got it." Sure, at the time as 16, 17-year-old kids, that didn't mean a thing. But when you look back at that now, it did mean something. It meant a lot. See, being a Hanover Hawkeye meant that whatever was in store for us in life, we were going to be confident. We were going to have pride in ourselves. And we were going to work hard to accomplish our goals and tackle head-on whatever life had in store for us. Ultimately, my dad had a plan for all of us that went way beyond the X's and O's. Being a Hanover Hawkeye football player was bigger than the game. It was the beginning of our journey in life, and something we would never forget. I see that so clearly now. Now make no mistake about it, this is a Hall of Fame. It is about wins. It is about championships. It's about the respect of your peers and the admiration of former players. My dad legitimized the Hanover football program and took it to the top of the state. To join this fraternity of outstanding and successful coaches is an honor beyond belief for all of us here today and for all of those that have supported the Hawkeye program throughout the years. This induction also justifies my dad's lifelong devotion to Hanover and the Hanover community. Think about this, and this is not unlike living in many small towns. My dad grew up, was a record-setting quarterback at Hanover, taught as an educator in the district for over 30 years, raised his family, and coached football at Hanover for 23 years, all within a 2-mile radius. And even though my dad is not present now physically on the Hanover fields to blow his whistle, grind his teeth, have a few choice words, he is there. He'll always be there in the teachings and philosophies of the many that have followed in his footsteps. Unfortunately, I don't get to see my dad much these days. He and my mom retired to Florida several years ago. My family and I live in Chicago. My brother and his family live in San Francisco. But we still talk on the phone often. When my dad calls, I'll often answer the phone with a "Hey, coach." I don't know why I do it. I never really thought much about it. Mostly I think I'm just being silly. But in all reality, my dad is my coach. Not only on the football field many years ago, but he's my coach in life. And that is something for me to cherish each and every day. On behalf of everyone associated with the Hanover football program, I stand here today with that great Hawkeye pride instilled in me many years ago. And it's an honor that I introduce to you the newest inductee into your PA Coaches Hall of Fame, my dad, Alex Kopacz.
Wow. I'll tell you what I was thinking about it as I was sitting over there. What a Father's Day gift being inducted into the Hall of Fame, have your oldest son as your presenter, and my younger son in attendance from California and Chicago. So, you know, every Father's Day we don't get to see each other, so this one is pretty special. Also at this time, I know my dad, and I like to pay tribute to him. I know he's up there with my mom looking down, and I'm sure both of them are as proud as can be today. You know, it's been a while since I've been in front of a microphone. People know that I often get a little long-winded, and I think you can ask my players and friends that are here. They're all laughing as I look at them now. But you know what? It took me 16 years to get here, so too bad. You're gonna have to sit. Before offering any remarks about my induction, I'd like to congratulate the other inductees. You know, 235, and I didn't realize that there were that many. I knew there were 200 and some, but you know, 235, but the way Chuck mentioned it, out of like 12,000 is really quite an honor, and I'm quite humbled by it. You know, I've been out of coaching now longer than I served as head coach. I retired in 1996, and as Al mentioned, I've been living in Florida now with my wife for the last 7 years. But this particular journey to reach this particular point here today started way back. 1974 was when I got into this great profession. I started as an assistant coach at Hanover area, and I worked under 2 different head coaches. And those are the first 2 people that I would like to thank. And they would be Bob King and Steve Bresnan. During those years, we weren't very successful. Actually, when I took over in 1982, if you went back the previous 20 years, Hanover only had 3 winning seasons out of the previous 20. So we were the doormats of the Wyoming Valley Conference. We'd win 1, we'd win 2, maybe 3 games a year. And it was tough. When I was fortunate enough to be named head coach, you know, I took a lot of things into consideration and observed what was missing over all of those years. And as Al mentioned, I said our players at that time coming up did not have very much self-confidence. They were losers. They expected to go out, we're going to lose, blah, 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 the whole bit. So we established what we call Hawkeye Pride. And I know I have many of my former players sitting right up front here. And I know that phrase is still used in their lives today. We try to get them to be the best that they could be, to feel confident, and let it be known that it's special to play for Hanover area football. And they bought into it. The first year, we were 3-8. But we didn't give up. All the assistant coaches, everybody kept selling Hawkeye Pride. We're going to get better. We're going to get better. 1983, the next year, we go 13-0. We win the Eastern Conference Championship. At that time, that was as far as you can go. There were no state playoffs. As mentioned earlier, we were considered the top Class B. They had 2 divisions in, Class A and Class B. We were considered the top Class B school in the state. And as some people like to say, mythical state champs. There wasn't a true playoff system at that time. The next year, 1984, we win the Eastern Conference again. Our kids started to believe in everything that our staff was trying to get across about being proud to be a Hawkeye. We had a great run over that period of 83 and 80, actually started in 82, where we won 23 straight games. From 89 to 91, we had a 30-game winning streak, where we won the Class AA state championship, came back and lost in the finals the next year. We would have been, at that time, the first school to win back-to-back state championships, but we lost in the finals. But it was a great run throughout those years. But in between, we had some lean years. We didn't win all the time. And I think, as many of the coaches in here would agree, you're only as good as your players. I mean, you can have all the X's and O's, you can have great assistant coaches, you can have great facilities, you can have all of that, but you need the players if you're going to win. And one thing that I was very proud of, the years that we had good players and the years that we were favored to win, we won. And that's a tribute to our kids, and I think that has a lot to do with Hawkeye Pride. You know, my entire football career, I was totally consumed with it. I can recall for all 15 of those years, as soon as I would open my eyes in the morning, the first thing that would come to my mind was something about football. And before I went to bed, the last thing on my mind was something about football. And this was all year round as we try to turn our football program into something special. You know, I've received many accolades over the years, but I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the help of many other people, and there are many of them that I'd like to thank here. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for blessing me, giving me the opportunity to pursue my passion, what I enjoy doing. Also next, the school district, Hanover area. You know, when I was on that staff and we weren't too successful, they could have very easily just wiped out the staff and brought in somebody else from the outside. But they gave me an opportunity to try and turn around that program, and I'm really indebted to them for that. Another group that you can't do without, and I know the prior inductees have mentioned it, are your assistant coaches. I know one thing, over the years, and I hear the coaches talking about how they had coaches for 20 years, 25 years. I wasn't that fortunate. In 15 years, I had over 50 different assistant coaches. Now you think about it, people that are coming in, you got to train them and go, and you know the reason for it was the time that we put in. You know, I believe in preparation was so important, and we would put in, you know, most of the guys that worked for me, they weren't all teachers. They worked in other aspects of the community. And they would go and work 40 hours at their job, come to football, and put on average of another 50 hours a week in the football program. So this, as was just mentioned earlier, you know, preparation we thought was the thing that we could help. You know, I can't out-coach anybody, X's, O's, as was mentioned. I mean, preparation we thought was what would fuel our success. One interesting story, the year that we did win the state championship, we worked 120 straight days of 50-hour work weeks without a day off. And so you need to have special people, and I cannot thank all the assistants. Some of them are sitting here today. And if it wasn't for them, of course, I wouldn't be here at all today. You know, 99%, I believe, and these guys maybe can correct me, but since I left in 1996, I would say 99% of all the coaches that coach in Hanover area either played for me, coached with me, or did both. And that's something I'm pretty proud of. They really have tried and have been successful in trying to carry on the tradition and to carry on Hawkeye Pride. I'm also very proud about our assistants. Many of them have moved on. Some have become head coaches at other schools. Some, of course, have taken over head coach in Hanover area. And not only that, but many of them got, by getting involved in football, got involved with other sports within the school district, and many of them even got other employment in jobs within the school district or the community. And if football gave them that start, that makes me feel pretty darn good. The next group I like to thank are our players. And we got, as I mentioned, we have some of them here today. They, of course, are the backbone of any football team, and they're the ones that are going to determine if your football team is successful or not. I don't know how many have come through, a couple hundred, I imagine, but you know, those that are in attendance here, I thank you again so much for coming and sharing this with me. You know, wins, championships, they're all nice. But I just hope that all the players that played for me take something else besides wins and championships. You know, if you can take discipline, work ethic, teamwork, leadership, those type of qualities, if you can take those and carry them into your adult life, then I was successful more so than being a football coach. And that's something that really makes me feel well. I was very intense. I said, wow. And somewhat of a perfectionist. You know, we would run plays and we'd do it again and again and again. And I'm sure many of our players and many of them here cursed me under their breaths many a times as I try to push them to work harder and try to persevere and how this is going to help you down the road. And they bought into it. You know, they really did. And I only hope that I had some impact on their lives in some small way. You know, everything that I did, the way I coached, my style of coaching, I did was to help make those players better persons, to make them a better husband, make them a better father in the future. Got another page yet? And it's nice to know, it really is, and I'm sure all the other coaches can share that it's nice when you hear from your former players. Like I said, I've been in Florida now for 7 years, and you don't have the contact that you did when you lived in the community, of course. But it's nice when you hear from some, and you know, we have, just like all the other coaches, I'm sure, we have players that have become doctors, lawyers, educators, military people, business people, and hopefully, if there was something that I did when you played football, that you can look back and say, remember that crazy guy and what he told us? But you know what? Maybe he was right. And if I can do that, that makes all of it worthwhile. Another thing I told our players too, I said, we got to play for memories. I said, there's not too many of you here that are going to move on to the next level and play football. Most of you are going to play your 4 years or how many years you played, and that's it. So I said, we have to have fun, we have to enjoy it. Let's make memories, because 10, 20, 30 years from now, if you have some good memories, you're going to talk about them. And I'm sure tonight we're going to hear a lot of stories after this is over. But that was something that I firmly believed in. You guys that are here, I can't thank you enough for coming. I'm glad that you came and shared this honor with me, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. You know, there's some others I'd like to thank. Some support people that worked in our program for the 15 years that I was head coach. They're not here. Well, I shouldn't say they're not here. We have some here. But we have a team physician, Dr. Edward Corella, who was with us. Not only did he take care of our injuries, but he loved Hanover football. You know, he's still alive. He's about 90 years old. And you talk about the biggest cheerleader, and a guy get nervous on the sidelines when things were getting tense there. That was him. And I really appreciate that. Another guy that I'm sure a lot of these guys remember, Crutch. That was his nickname. Ron Noggle was our gopher, you might say. He was the guy that went and got us food coaches. He went and exchanged tapes for us. He did all that. But his main job was statistician. And he did that, and he really did a good job with it, and I can't thank him enough. Also, somebody that has been with Hanover area football longer than anyone. I believe it's like pushing 40 years he's been with the Hanover area football program. He's been the head manager, and he's still there. And from what I understand, there might be a street or something named after him that goes down to the stadium. That's how important he has been through Hanover area football. And I'd like him to stand up. Mike Lewis. One other individual that was very close to our program that I'd like to thank. He's not with us anymore. He was our groundskeeper, but not only that, he took care of the field, the locker rooms, but he would do anything for our football program. And he enjoyed some good seasons with us. He's, as I mentioned, no longer with us. Ed Shipshinskas, guys know him as Knox, was his nickname, and I'm very grateful to him. Also, to all of our fans over the years, you know, we had some great fans that would turn out at games. They'd be there 2 hours before kickoff, yelling and screaming. And the entire community actually got involved with our football program. And they were really behind us all the way, and I thank them very much. Lastly, I'd like to thank the people that are most dear to me, and that, of course, is my family. I have 2 sons. You guys have met Al, or Alex. My other son, Brian. Brian, would you stand up, please? Both of these guys played for me over the years. Sometimes it wasn't easy. It seems like Dad took it a little harder on his own sometimes, and I know that happened sometimes, but we had great experiences as they both. The good thing about it was, since I was away from home so long, this was time that we spent together. You know, if we left for school at 7:30, I'm not getting home till 10, 11 at night. They're done with practice and got, so football season didn't really see them that much. So time that was spent during football was quite special to me. Also, their wives who couldn't come here today. I have 2 great daughter-in-laws, Melanie and Jennifer, and also 4 very precious grandchildren that I love very much. But lastly, the most important person in my life, and that's my wife of 42 years. We've been together that long, and we've gone through football for 15 of those years as head coach. When I was an assistant, it was a little different. But we went through the ups and downs and all of that stuff. But I'll tell you, as was mentioned earlier, you need a special person if you're going to be a football coach to be your wife. There's no doubt. They sacrifice so much. You know, it was funny, I can recall back in the 90s when one of the local newspapers, you know, they were covering our team every day and all our players and coaches and that stuff. And I guess they're still looking for something else to talk about our team, so they interviewed my wife, Chris. And she says, oh yeah, during the season, I carry the load. He's never around. And that's true. And there's no doubt about it that she picked up where I wasn't, and I can't thank her so much. So I'd like to introduce my wife, Chris. Would you please stand? I love you as much now as I did 42 years ago. Also in attendance, I have some other members of my family. I have my brother-in-law, Pete, and sister-in-law, Pat, and my nephew, Mark, taking some video over there. I thank you guys for all the support that you have given me. A couple other people that actually were very influential in getting me to this position. 2 of my former players that eventually went on to coach, and they kept this dream alive for me. As I said, I've been out of here 16 years, and they would nominate me, and this is how it all happened. And I can't thank them enough. I wish they would stand. Tom Palfy, right here, and Tom Stavitsky. Another guy that's been pretty influential, and you're going to hear from him again. All of a sudden, he's now the coach of Berwick High School. He's back at it again, but he was very influential, as well as Joe Repchus in getting me to this position, so I thank those guys as well. In closing, I'd like to thank the Football Coaches Association for this great ceremony and this great honor. You know, I coached in the Big 33 game back in '92 as an assistant. Back then, we played Maryland. We stopped playing Ohio for a while, and we played Maryland. We beat them 37-0 in that game, and I think you're going to see a similar score tonight in favor of Pennsylvania. Mike Brennan back there coaching the Big 33 game. Go get it, Mike. I can honestly say that I'm truly humbled by this honor, and I'm sure it's something that will remain dear to my heart for many, many years, and I'm sure I'll never forget it. So I thank you all for coming, and I thank you.